Okay, everybody, welcome back. This is, of course, Sugi Shogun here, and today I'm gonna be reviewing one of the latest Netflix original shows known as Pluto, which is based on the works of Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy. And a lot of people have been probably wondering, do I need to watch Astro Boy before watching Pluto? And the answer is no, you don't have to, but it probably will give you a bit of a understanding about the world and its dynamics if you have seen an episode or two, or at least the beginning of Astro Boy. But long story short, no, you don't have to. So Pluto is basically adapting one of the arcs in Astro Boy, but obviously this is done by a different author, and it's a lot more like tailored to be more like a detective show, a lot longer than the original arc was in the manga of Astro Boy. And it's obviously a lot more grittier and darker, and maybe it has more psychological aspects to it, and it's turned into more like a detective show than like an action shonen like the original Astro Boy was. So yeah, there's definitely a different type of a feel into aesthetically, but also story-wise when it comes to Pluto. But the series does a good job of like throwing you into the world, and you don't really have that much of confusion like what exactly is going on in the world and what are the dynamics of this arc. Like, you don't really need to know anything. Maybe it would have helped if they did some background story around Adam, like who Adam exactly is, how he came to be, who was the professor that built him. A couple of those details could have been explained a bit earlier on, and maybe a bit of a breakdown, like some type of like a flashback arc of like, info segment of 30 seconds. Could have done a lot of things for this show if it would have done that like in episode 2 or 1. But basically, as I already alluded, this is a more of a darker retelling of that story. And let's go a bit on of the synopsis of this one without going into too much into spoilers, because I really want you to experience this story on your own without me telling you all of these pivotal and key details about the story. So basically, there was this 39th Asian War, and this was between the countries of Persia, which is modern-day Iran, and the Kingdom of Thracia, which is basically like, well, Thrace was like an area where the Spartans basically were, if I remember right. And there was basically this premise that, yeah, there might have been like nuclear weapons in Kingdom of Persia. And then they sent like a bunch of these robots to basically do peacekeeping there and fight against this robot army. And this kind of like premise is kind of crazy in itself, because obviously Iran and Iraq, both of them have been accused by Israel to have nuclear weapons or nuclear arsenal, which led to basically the invasion of Iraq. And maybe in near future we're going to be seeing invasion of Iran, and that is going to be basically on the premise of there might have been an actual nuclear weapons there or accusations of nuclear weapons. So this is like, there's a geopolitical dynamic here which is actually rooted into the real world. Obviously, there's no such place as Kingdom of Thrace or something like that. There's probably a lot of made-up things in the world of Astro Boy and Pluto all together. But fundamentally, like, yeah, there's some like leniency taken from the real world that we're living in, and the kind of like the socioeconomic and political things that are going on. And it basically follows a detective who is there to solve out the crimes of these robots that basically were in these peacekeeping missions, and he's known as Gesicht, the German name, and he is basically a detective robot. And then Adam is like introduced, I believe, in the end of the first episode, and Adam is obviously the Astro Boy. Astro Boy is the title that they use in English, but obviously in Japan he's known as Tetsuwan Atom. And Adam is basically one of these, like, basically one of the best robots in the world, the strongest robots, I guess, in the world, or the perfect robot. There's a lot of, different types of things. And the series kind of like explores of these weird murders that are being done on these robots and even humans alike. And there seems to be some type of revenge story, and it seems to be playing down into this conflict that happened on Persia and Thrace years ago. And that's basically out, kind of like the synopsis and the premise. And there's a lot of exploration about like robot, human, and AI, like how are they mingling with each other? What are the dynamics here? Like, is it moral for have the robots, and there's like anti-robot resistance there, like people who are not accepting robots? And it's like a lot of these ethical discussions that we are having today, even in the modern day world, about like, well, should we limit AI and what is AI rights and blah 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 blah. And this is kind of like a lot more futuristic view of that. Like this is probably like taking place in like 2100 or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but it's not explained in the series, but that's what I'm assuming. It is a futuristic show where humans are coexisting with robots, and robots are not also able to kill humans. They have this design on them that they're not able to kill humans, and this is also like one of the big ethical discussions that is being had with a lot of the characters that they are investigating, that there was a robot that was able to kill humans, and they are like very afraid about robots having the capability to kill humans. So there's a lot of these very, very interesting aspects here in terms of like having characters that have ability to do XYZ, and like, are robots behind the murders? Is it humans behind the murders? It's a very interesting story, and it's like very slow burn style also. Like not everything is revealed in the beginning. Like a lot of the pieces are really only revealed like on the episode 6. And the series is actually quite long. There's no season 2, by the way, in case you're wondering. So this is like the whole thing. It's 8 episodes, but all the episodes are roughly like 1 hour long. So technically we have like 16 episodes here in like rough anime episodes. We would measure it like that. And in terms of the animation, there's a bit of 3D in the mix, but it's mostly 2D. The animation quality is really, really good, and there's a lot of like, a couple of like good action scenes, but fundamentally it is a detective show. It's not action all the time. There's a bit of like chase out scenes, like, people fighting, robots fighting each other, but fundamentally like it is a detective show. And, visually it's very good looking. I just kind of like the designs of the characters. They're not exactly similar to what we generally see in anime, like big noses and things like that. Like, there's a distinctive art style here, which is a lot more closer to what you would expect from a Western series. And this is definitely like catering into a Western audience more. You can see like B in the beginning and some of the other shows. I think was Mask of something, I don't remember, like Blood Mask or some other anime. I remember reviewing it on the old channel. But Netflix is picking a lot of detective anime shows. They have a clear, distinctive shows that they are picking. They're not really going for these big shonen shows. That's not really what Netflix is doing. Their emphasis always has been to pick out shows that are appealing to Western audience. And then people are always talking about, Netflix is adding this woke agenda. Like, Netflix is not really part of the production that much. Like, they might issue some people like doing this and XYZ show, but they're not really having this like woke agenda as people are like making it out to be. Like, they don't really have that much like creative impact on the productions what are happening in Japan. It's just that they are bidding on these shows to be on their platform instead of like Crunchyroll or the national broadcasting television channels in Japan. So that's something that people usually mistake, but you can definitely see that in Pluto, you don't have excessive sexualization, you don't have boob shots, things like that. You don't have your general anime tropes here. It's very westernized in a lot of ways. It's like very trying to be like palpable for the Western audiences and very serious. And yeah, you can stylistically tell this is an anime, right? There's robots and sci-fi, and these are like anime things, and you can see like the way that the story is told, and these are like, these are anime tropes in a sense, but not the generic stuff that we see in every anime. And it's always very refreshing to see different style of anime, in my opinion, that way, that are not just exactly following the same formula. But I'm also kind of wanting that in reverse. Like, I expect like American shows or Western shows to be less like Western and try to be a bit more different in terms of their like stylistic direction and moral decisions and political themes and etc. But yeah, it's definitely more for people, for normies who don't watch anime, but it's probably something that normal audience probably would enjoy. And it has been heralded as like a modern masterpiece, and I think in a lot of ways it is. It's not a 10 out of 10 in my book, and I think that has a lot to do with the idea that, as I already alluded, I think there could have been a better introduction into the world and explaining about a bit of the dynamics here about Adam, for example. So I had to guess like, well, this guy was made Adam, or was it this guy? Like, his background story, he is Gesicht. I'm just gonna brutally pronounce that wrongly, but he is kind of like the main character, and then on the end, Adam basically becomes the main character. So there's like a lot of switcheroo here. But in a lot of ways, like, yeah, there could have been some small fixes into that story in that a lot of ways, like breaking down a bit of the world. And I also wasn't really like that amazed by the ending. It kind of ends on a bit of a weird note. I mean, it's not like the most perfect ending, but I guess if that's how the manga ended, well, that's how you basically go around with it, I guess. And then you have the OST, which, once again, like, this is something that Netflix, you notice, like, in Netflix openings, they never have these flashy openings on their animes because Netflix doesn't want you, the companies, to actually, like, pay for these amazing openings with these amazing musics, because most of the time people will skip the intros. So the intros and the outros for this show are, like, pretty non-existent, and the music is average at best. Like, there's nothing really that plays out, and, you know, something I remember, like, out of my top of my head right now. So that was average to me, and that's probably the OST and a couple of these story elements really prevented this from becoming the 10 out of 10 piece. But still, people are loving it. People are loving the storytelling. It's not like blatantly obvious what's going on, who's the bad villains. There's a couple of, like, you know, bamboozles thrown out there and there. You think about, maybe this is the bad guy, maybe it's a human, maybe it's a robot, whatever. So I think I like those aspects, that there's like a little of, there's a mystery keeping and throughout the whole season, like, for a long time, and that's like very, very good. The pacing is also pretty good in my opinion. Maybe it could have been slightly shorter, but maybe that's just my preference. I don't know, but you know, a detective show being 16 episodes, well, you know, it's up to, it's not like Death Note. Death Note goes to a different arc. It's a bit different style detective show. But yeah, I definitely recommend everybody to go watch Pluto. And I kind of got really, really interested now watching a lot of the newest Astro Boy adaptations. I think the last one is 2003 or something. So I'm probably going to give that one a shot and maybe watch the CGI movie, which was not very, like, well received, but I probably might review and watch it on the channel as well. And obviously, I will be watching some of the earlier season anime and things like that. So a lot of things are going to be jumping out soon. Thanks for watching. I will be on the next video.